最強の王者ダンデとのバトルを目指すサトシ。全てのポケモンをゲットしミュウにたどり着くという夢を持つゴー。これはそんな2人のウェーブの向こ
うからこんばんは。
ちょっと何
じゃないわよ。
Hey everyone, it's the Elite Rocket Agent. Oh wait, sorry, that's just my Wha-bam name. What I meant to say was, hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Journeys episode 107, a new program, Team Rocket's Secret Kingdom Radio. This was the 1191st episode of the Pokémon anime. Wow. This episode. Honestly, I don't know if my review is going to be able to do this episode justice. Watching this may have been the most I have ever enjoyed watching any episode of Pokemon Journeys. Like, was this the best episode ever? No, but it was so funny. I could not stop laughing while I was watching it. Let's break it down. The episode starts just like the beginning of this video, with Team Rocket hijacking the usual intro. This was the first of many fourth wall breaking moments as we cut to Team Rocket recording the first edition of Team Rocket's Secret Kingdom Radio. Now, just to add some context here, this episode is kind of a reference to Team Rocket's Secret Empire, a radio show hosted by the Japanese voice actors of Jesse, James, and Meowth that actually aired in 2012 from July to December. Yeah, I can't believe this was a real thing either. Back to the episode, we wasted no time getting meta as we see them getting into an argument with their Rotom phone, asking it to play the background music, and it takes Jesse seriously creeping everybody out to get the Rotom phone to cooperate. Their show gets off to a less than stellar start, with Jessie basically talking over everyone and making it all about herself. While Jessie is living in her own fantasy land, the others are calling her a demon under their breath. This reminds me of one of my old clips.
Now I understand why she's such a nut job.
So, after they go off the air, Jessie is fired up about how great the show was, and they go over how Giovanni ordered them to recruit new Team Rocket members. Giovanni didn't mention anything about a radio show. That was Jessie's idea. They decide to check on how many new recruits they got from that first show, and not only did they not get any signups, but also no one even listened to the show. Ouch. Yeah, I know the feeling, Team Rocket. It was the same for me when I just started out on YouTube. These four won't be easily deterred though, and they immediately get back to work on planning an even better second show. Meanwhile, the Cerise lab, everyone is asleep except for Ren and Professor Cerise. Just as they're finishing up for the night, Ren gets a notification, and oh, by the way, I loved how Chris's desk had Psyduck merchandise. That was a nice touch. Anyways, when Ren mentions that he listens to the radio, Professor Cerise goes full boomer on everyone by talking about how he used to listen to radio through one of those old machines that needed an antenna. To be fair, Professor Cerise reminiscing on what radio used to be like did remind me of how I used to listen to sports talk radio every night back in elementary school. After Ren talks more and more about the live web shows that make up most of today's radio scene, Professor Cerise says that he's going to start listening to radio shows again. Cut to the next day, and oh my god, what happened here? Apparently, Team Rocket pulled an all-nighter planning out their next radio show, and later that night, their second episode starts with a Wha-bam! They make this one a little more over the top, and all of them are super into this one. Unfortunately for them, no one signs up for Team Rocket yet again after this episode. They immediately start thinking of ways to improve the show, such as giving themselves nicknames and giving away merch to listeners. Everyone loves free merch, so this idea is a home run. Shockingly, James wants to give away bottle cap shaped badges, and James also offers to give away his Premier Ball, which if you remember back in Sun and Moon, that thing was part of his prize collection. This just goes to show how dedicated James is to making this radio show a success, and everyone else is moved by this touching gesture. By this point, they're all in on making this radio show a success, so they keep working on finding ways to improve their show. Apparently, their show did start to gain some popularity as we see Ren tuning in one night as Francois, his Magnemite, watches on. For some reason, the art for their show has an Oshawott and a rocket, and I just found out today that apparently there's some kind of running gag in Journeys about an Oshawott in a car. I'm surprised I hadn't noticed this before. Anyways, their new show is called Wha-bam Z, and they want everyone listening to Wha-bam along with them. What? Alright, let's go with it. Apparently this is episode 56 of their radio show, and Jessie has given herself the nickname Princess Number 7. James is Mentor Blue Brews, and Meowth has something to do with the charm on his head. I think all of these names probably had some joke that got lost in translation. Instead of aggressively trying to recruit new team members to Team Rocket, their new radio show takes the angle of trying to make friends with everyone across the world. How sweet. Some of the segments on the show include What's Inside the Pelipper and Morpeko's ASMR time. What? Alright, let's keep going. So a listener with the Wha-bam name Daddy's a Lonely Ball Lately, who I guess is an avid listener of the show, has written in about how his daughter is giving all her attention to Pokemon, and he's jealous of that. They talk about how they would give all their attention to a cute little Pokemon like Eevee if it were them, and funny they should mention Eevee of all Pokemon. Jesse's advice is that the listener should learn more about Pokemon if that's what his daughter is interested in, and James suggests that the listener should become a Pokemon professor? Whoa, that would be kinda crazy. Apparently this was like the 25th time that listener had written into the show, and after hearing this, Ren is starting to get into it. Well, more than that actually, he's ready to entirely devote himself to becoming a hardcore fan of this show. Oh boy. The next segment of the show is What's Inside the Pelipper, and James reaches in to find his very hangry Morpeko. Good timing, because now it's time for the next segment, Morpeko's ASMR time. This segment goes totally off the rails. Well, was the show ever on the rails? Once Morpeko has had its fill, they transition into the next segment, which is going to be Meowth reading a tongue twister. The Wha-bam listener who sent today's tongue twister in was the Strong Rugged Rockman, and the scene changes to where the Strong Rugged Rockman is listening. And wait, he looks kind of familiar. Wait, it's Brock? What? Oh my god, this episode is incredible. To add on to this ridiculousness, Brock has even developed a crush on Princess Number 7, not knowing what their true identity is. While Meowth reads Brock's tongue twister about traversing tunnels with Tornadus, we jump around all over the world and see different people listening to the show. Next, they read a message from a listener who goes by the Wha-bam name Nervessois. I wonder who that could be. Apparently, this message won some kind of award for tugging on their heartstrings the most, and the message is actually about these two kids who have big dreams about becoming a Pokemon master and catching every Pokemon in the world. Team Rocket are touched and nearly brought to tears by these huge dreams, and with that, episode 56 of Wha-bam Z has come to a close. Their catchy sign-off is "What a great feeling," a reference to what Team Rocket say whenever they're blasting off again. The next morning, Ash and Go come to the kitchen for some breakfast, and wait a minute, what is that on Professor Cerise's jacket? Ren notices it right away, and they recite the Wha-bam greeting, revealing themselves to be Wha-bam fans. Ren shows off the premiere ball he won last night, which means he was Nervessois. Professor Cerise isn't going to let his fandom be challenged though, as he reveals his massive bottle cap badge collection. And Ren clocks that he must be Daddy's a Lonely Ball Lately. Oh, it all makes sense now. Ash and Go are like, what the is going on here? But Red and Professor Cerise are just happy to have met another Wha-bam fan. The episode ends with the narrator explaining how Team Rocket had totally forgotten about their original goal of recruiting new Team Rocket members. But before the narrator finishes their point, Jessie interrupts him, asking if he was even paying attention, and the narrator is flustered. James tells the narrator that he can read tonight's first fan message, and it's from Wha-bam name The Radio Connoisseur. Wait a second. Where do I even begin with this episode? First of all, if you watch this episode without subs, you are doing yourself a disservice by not fully understanding the dialogue. This episode was hilarious and filled with so many little details. Aside from this random frame of cursed Jessie that happened a few times in the episode, I have basically no complaints about this episode. It was filled with great humor, funny references, and a load of Easter eggs. I guess genuinely the only complaints I have is that I would have loved a shot of Brock facing forward as well as an actual silent appearance, but that's mainly just so I could make a better thumbnail for this video. Low-key, one of the parts I liked about this episode the most was seeing Team Rocket struggle to get their radio show off the ground. They went into it thinking they were going to create a specific kind of show, but they ended up having to keep keep on making changes until they found a formula that the audience liked. I could relate to this so much being a content creator myself. It was tough going early on, but hey, I'm almost at my 100th episode review, and I've had so much fun growing a fan base and connecting with so many of you along the way. And clearly Team Rocket were also having that much fun with their radio show. The ending made it ambiguous whether or not Wha-bam Z was going to continue, but I think after this episode, there's going to be a lot of fan support for it to continue. I was pleasantly surprised to see that a lot of other people enjoyed this episode of Journeys as well. I know going into it there was not a lot of hype, especially after it had come after a string of highly anticipated episodes. Me personally, I actually had pretty high expectations for this episode, and I was shocked to find that this episode somehow exceeded my own expectations. I thought this episode had the potential to be similar to Airtime, which was episode 160 of the original series. This was also about Team Rocket starring in a radio show, and I thought it was such a funny filler episode that I gave it an 8 out of 10 rating in my recent original series rewatch. I've given the last few episodes of Journeys either an 8 or 8.5 out of 10, and I really struggled when deciding what to rate this episode. At the end of the day, I just had so much fun watching this episode. I was laughing almost nonstop the entire way through, and it was so over the top ridiculous that I absolutely loved it. So I'm giving this episode an 8.5 out of 10 rating. I can't fully put into words just why this episode was so good. You basically have to watch it for yourself with the subs. I hope whenever this episode gets dubbed, they are still able to do it justice by keeping as many jokes and references in as possible. Moving on to the next episode, and oh, I've been looking forward to this one. It's a Yamper-focused episode. I love Yamper so much, and it looks like it has become almost like the Bulbasaur of the Cerise Park. It looks like the drama of the episode will come with the water getting contaminated somehow, and it looks like this will bring back a very special Pokemon to help save the day. Ooh, I can't wait for this episode. Man, Journeys has me in such a good mood lately. Another reason why I am so excited is because on Sunday evening over in my Discord server, I'm going to be participating in a Fire Red race featuring Starmeister, Aleximo, and more. I won the Emerald race that I mentioned last week, and I'm looking forward to defending my crown this weekend. I'm glad these speed races are kind of becoming a thing, so make sure you join my Discord server if you want to get in on the action yourself. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next time.